Deep in the pine forest, where shadows grew long and temperatures plummeted, Ranger Tom Hale's flashlight beam caught something unexpected during his routine patrol. A small, shivering figure beneath the oldest tree in his sector. Emily clutched her swollen belly, 7 months pregnant and desperate. "Please, don't call anyone," she whispered through blue lips. Fleeing an abusive relationship, she'd been surviving in an abandoned tent for weeks. Protocol demanded he call emergency services immediately. Instead, Tom made a decision that would forever alter both their lives. He brought her to his secluded cabin, offering warmth, food, and most importantly, safety. As snowfall isolated them from the outside world, Tom quietly prepared his modest home for a baby while authorities searched for a missing woman. What would happen when they found her? Could a stranger's kindness truly change the course of 2 lives forever? Before we jump back in, tell us where you're tuning in from. And if this story touches you, make sure you're subscribed, because tomorrow I've saved something extra special for you. The morning light filtered through the pines as Tom Hale completed his usual routine. Coffee at 5 a.m. Patrol log update by 5:30. Radio check at 5:45. At 58, with weathered skin and a salt and pepper beard, Tom moved with the deliberate efficiency of someone accustomed to solitude. His cabin, nestled deep in the Whispering Pines National Forest, stood as testament to his preference for simplicity. 1 bedroom, sparse furnishings, and walls adorned only with topographical maps. He placed his coffee mug in the sink and reached for the worn military compass that never left the small table by his door. 26 years in the army, 12 as a combat medic, and the compass had never failed him. And like people, another day in paradise, he muttered to his reflection in the small bathroom mirror, noting the deepening creases around his eyes. The Forest Service uniform still fit, though not as crisply as it once had. Outside, his breath formed clouds in the November air. The temperature had dropped significantly overnight. The Weather Service had warned of record lows. Tom made a mental note to check the remote campsites for stragglers who might have underestimated the cold. His radio crackled. "Ranger Hale, you copy." "Over." Tom unclipped it from his belt. "Copy, Martinez." "Go ahead. Just checking in. Weather's turning nasty. Sheriff wants all rangers to advise any hikers to clear out. Supposed to hit 15 below tonight." "Roger that. I'll sweep the eastern trails. How's the cabin holding up? That roof still giving you trouble?" Martinez's voice carried genuine concern beneath its professional tone. "Nothing I can't handle," Tom replied. His standard response to almost everything. "Still coming in for Thanksgiving at the station next week." Tom hesitated. The annual Rangers' dinner was the one social obligation he couldn't easily avoid. "We'll see." "That means no," Martinez chuckled. "One of these days, Hale, you're going to have to rejoin civilization." The radio fell silent, leaving Tom with only the sound of wind through the pines. He preferred it that way. The trees never asked questions, never expected explanations. He checked his compass, adjusted his path, and headed toward the eastern sector. The forest had been his sanctuary for 7 years now, ever since Afghanistan, ever since Sarah and Emma. Their names floated through his mind like ghosts, and he pushed them away with practiced discipline. As he hiked, Tom's thoughts drifted to the new ranger, Jesse, fresh-faced, eager, full of questions about wildlife conservation and forest management. Questions Tom answered with technical precision while maintaining emotional distance. Last week she'd asked why he'd chosen this remote outpost. "Some men are built for crowds," he told her. "Some aren't." She hadn't pressed further, but he'd seen the curiosity in her eyes. The same look the department therapist had given him years ago when he'd refused to process his grief properly, as if there were a proper way to handle watching the helicopter carrying your wife and daughter disappear. From radar over the Atlantic, Tom stopped at a ridge overlooking the valley. His sector stretched for miles, pristine, untamed, indifferent to human suffering. That's what he appreciated most about nature. It made no promises, harbored no deceptions. Unlike the military doctors who'd promised Sarah's cancer was in remission, unlike the flight controllers who'd promised routine weather conditions for her and Emma's flight to visit her parents, He pulled out his compass again, more from habit than necessity. The needle swung steadily north, unwavering in its purpose. Tom envied its certainty. The distant crack of a branch snapping brought him back to the present. Probably a deer, but he remained still, listening. 7 years of ranging had taught him to distinguish between normal forest sounds and anomalies. This wasn't quite right. Tom unclipped his flashlight. Even in daylight, the dense forest created shadows deep enough to hide in. He'd encountered everything from lost hikers to drug operations in these woods. Nothing surprised him anymore, or so he thought. He'd complete his patrol, file his report, and return to his cabin, alone with his thoughts, his routines, and the silence that had become both his punishment and his refuge. Tomorrow would be the same, and the day after, stretching into a future as predictable as it was empty. At least, that's what Tom believed as he continued down the trail, unaware that by nightfall, everything would change. Emily Warren huddled deeper into the sleeping bag, its once waterproof exterior now compromised by weeks of constant use. At 26, her face retained a youthful softness despite the hollows forming beneath her cheekbones. Her dirty blonde hair hung limply around her shoulders, unwashed for days. Only her eyes remained vibrant, fiercely alert, constantly scanning for threats. The abandoned camping tent she'd claimed 3 weeks ago leaked in multiple places now. She'd patched what she could with duct tape stolen from a ranger station. But the intensifying November rain found new ways to seep through nightly. Emily's hand instinctively moved to her swollen belly as the baby kicked. 7 months along now. Her fingers traced the outline of the prenatal vitamin bottle in her pocket, only 12 left. She'd been taking them every other day to stretch the supply, a compromise that haunted her. "We're okay," she whispered, a ritual reassurance. "We're going to be okay." The ultrasound picture, her most precious possession, was tucked safely in a Ziploc bag. A girl, the technician had told her. Back when Emily still had a job at Mercy General, an apartment, a future that didn't involve hiding in the woods like a hunted animal, before Derek had shown his true nature. The first time he'd hit her, Emily had been 5 months pregnant. She'd dropped a plate, a simple accident that sent him into a rage so sudden and violent it left her stunned on the kitchen floor. "I'm sorry," he'd repeated afterward, cradling her, crying. "It's just the stress. The baby coming. I'll get help." She'd believed him, made excuses, until it happened again. And again. The night she left, Derek had been drinking. He'd grabbed her phone, demanding to see her texts. When she refused, his hand had closed around her throat. "You and that baby belong to me," he'd snarled, his eyes unfamiliar and cold. "Don't you ever forget it." While he slept, Emily had packed a single backpack with essentials, clothes, the ultrasound, her prenatal vitamins, and the $237 she'd been secretly saving. She'd left her phone, knowing he could track it. She'd taken a bus as far as the money would stretch, to this small mountain town where tourists rarely ventured in the off-season, where Derek wouldn't think to look, where she could disappear until she figured out what to do next, except her money had run out. The baby was growing, and winter was coming. Emily checked her watch, a cheap digital one purchased from a dollar store. 4:15 p.m. Darkness would fall soon, and with it temperatures would plummet. The weather report she'd overheard at the general store warned of record cold. Her stomach growled. She reached for her food supply. 2 granola bars, a half-empty jar of peanut butter, and a bruised apple scavenged from behind the local market. She allowed herself 2 spoons of peanut butter and half the apple. The rest needed to last. Tomorrow she'd risk another trip into town. Maybe she could find odd jobs, dishwashing, sweeping, something that paid cash and asked no questions. But each venture increased the chance of being noticed, reported. Derek had friends in law enforcement back home. She couldn't risk it. The baby kicked again, harder this time. "I know," Emily murmured, rubbing her belly. "I know you're hungry too." The irony wasn't lost on her. As a nurse's aide, she'd spent years caring for others, and now she couldn't even properly care for herself or her child. In her previous life, she would have reported someone in her condition to social services immediately. A gust of wind shook the tent, sending a spray of water onto her sleeping bag. Emily shivered, zipping the bag higher, despite knowing it would be too constricting around her pregnant form. The thin layer of pine needles beneath provided little insulation from the cold ground. She took out the ultrasound photo again, tracing the tiny profile with her finger. For her daughter, she would endure this. For her daughter, she would find a way. The distant sound of footsteps crunching through the forest underbrush sent her pulse racing. Emily quickly tucked away the ultrasound and pressed herself against the far side of the tent. Making herself as small as possible, Deputy Sophia Martinez stamped her boots on the welcome mat of the ranger station, shaking off the morning frost. At 39, she carried herself with the confident authority of someone who knew these mountains as well as she knew the law, intimately and respectfully. "Morning. Jessie," she called to the young ranger behind the desk. "Hale radio in yet?" Jessie looked up from her computer. "Not since his 6 a.m. check-in." "You know, Tom." Man of few words, Martinez nodded, unzipping her jacket. "Got something for the bulletin board." She pulled a stack of papers from her bag. "Missing person case from Riverside County." Jessie took the flyer, studying the smiling young woman in the photograph. "Pretty, who is she?" "Emily Warren, 26, nurse's aide. 7 months pregnant. Disappeared 3 weeks ago." Martinez pinned the flyer to the corkboard. "Boyfriend reported her missing. Says she's unstable, might be hiding out in rural areas. You think she's up here?" Martinez shrugged. "Boyfriend's desperate. Says she has a history of mental health issues. Stopped taking her medication." "He's worried about the baby," Jessie frowned. "Sounds rough. We're covering all the wilderness areas within a 3-hour bus ride from Riverside." Martinez checked her watch. "I need to get these to Tom and the other remote rangers. Mind if I take the ATV up to his cabin?" "Be my guest, but don't expect much conversation." Martinez smiled wryly. 7 years, and I'm still working on getting complete sentences from Hale." The ATV journey to Tom's cabin took 40 minutes, winding through increasingly remote terrain. Few knew these back trails existed. Fewer still ventured this deep into the forest. Perfect for someone who wanted to disappear, Tom was chopping wood when she arrived, his axe swinging in practiced arcs. He acknowledged her with a nod, but continued until the logs split cleanly. "Martinez," he said finally, embedding the axe in the stump. "Twice in 1 week. Must be important." She handed him the flyer. "Missing person. Pregnant woman from Riverside. Thought you should know given the weather coming in." Tom studied the image, a young woman with dirty blonde hair and a bright smile, arm in arm with a dark-haired man whose face had been cropped partially out of frame. "Boyfriend." "Derek Mercer. He's the one who reported her missing." Martinez watched Tom's face carefully. After years working together, she'd learned to read his micro-expressions. Says she has mental health issues, might be delusional. Apparently took off without her medication. Tom handed the flyer back. "I'll keep an eye out." "That's it? No questions?" "What else is there to know?" Martinez sighed. "You know, most people would ask why a pregnant woman would disappear into the wilderness in November. Not my business to speculate. And that's why you live alone in the woods." She softened the comment with a smile. "Seriously though, Tom, if she is out here, she won't survive long in these temperatures." "Forecast says we're looking at record lows tonight," Tom nodded, reaching for another log. "I'll sweep the eastern campgrounds again." Martinez knew a dismissal when she heard one. "Right, well, radio if you find anything." "And Tom," she paused at her ATV, "the offer for Thanksgiving still stands. Beth makes enough food for an army." He nodded without looking up. "Appreciate it." After Martinez left, Tom studied the flyer again. Something about the woman's eyes caught his attention, a brightness that didn't quite match her smile. He'd seen that look before, in soldiers who'd learned to appear fine when they were anything but. And the boyfriend, something about his partially visible expression made Tom uneasy. The protective arm around Emily looked possessive rather than affectionate, or maybe he was projecting, seeing threats where none existed. The department therapist had warned him about that, hypervigilance she'd called it. a symptom of his PTSD. Tom pinned the flyer inside his cabin door and prepared for his afternoon patrol. He'd check the eastern trails, including the abandoned campgrounds closed for the season. Not many places a person could hide out there, but if this Emily was desperate enough, his radio crackled. All rangers be advised. Weather Service has issued a severe cold warning for tonight. Expected temperatures 15 to 20 below zero with wind chill. Ensure all campsites are cleared by 1700 hours. Tom acknowledged the alert and gathered extra emergency supplies. Space blankets, chemical heat packs, a thermos of hot broth. Standard protocol for extreme weather events. As he headed out, Tom glanced at the photo one more time. Something told him this wasn't a simple case of a confused woman wandering off. But whatever Emily Warren was running from, the forest in winter could be far more dangerous. He closed his cabin door against the biting wind. Tonight would be brutal for anyone caught unprepared. The temperature had plummeted faster than forecast. Tom's breath crystallized in front of him as he swept his flashlight across the eastern ridge trail. Wind cut through his insulated jacket, a bitter reminder of nature's indifference to human comfort. Last sweep, he muttered to himself, checking his watch. 8 to 17 p.m. He'd already cleared the designated campsites hours ago. This final patrol was his own addition to protocol, checking the off-trail areas where inexperienced hikers sometimes wandered. Tom paused, listening. Something had changed in the forest's nighttime symphony, a disruption in the natural rhythm. He killed his flashlight and stood motionless, letting his senses adjust. There, a sound not belonging to the wilderness. A whimper, perhaps, or a suppressed cough. He switched the light back on, directing its beam toward a cluster of ancient pines. The flashlight caught something reflecting back. Not animal eyes, but synthetic material, partially covered by fresh snow. Tom approached cautiously. A tent, or what remained of one, lay collapsed against the base of the largest tree. Snow had already accumulated on its sagging form. "Forest Service," he called. "Anyone there?" Silence. Then a faint rustling. Tom crouched, brushing away snow to reveal a tent entrance. The zipper was partially open, and through the gap his light illuminated a pale, frightened face. "Please," a female voice whispered through blue-tinged lips. "Don't call anyone." Tom recognized her immediately from the flyer. Emily Warren. Her hands cradled her pregnant belly protectively, her body curled around it like a shield. "You're freezing," he stated matter-of-factly, already reaching for his emergency pack. "How long have you been out here?" "Weeks," she managed, teeth chattering violently. "I'm fine. Just need to rest." Tom's training overrode any hesitation. Temperatures dropping below zero. "You'll die out here tonight." He unfolded the thermal emergency blanket, a thin sheet of silver material designed to reflect body heat. "This is not optional." He wrapped it around her shoulders, noting her flinch when his hands came near. The instinctive reaction of someone accustomed to being hurt. "I have a cabin. Warm shelter, food, medical supplies." He kept his voice neutral, non-threatening. "Your choice, but you need to decide quickly." Emily's eyes darted frantically, evaluating options that didn't exist. Her survival instincts warred visibly with her fear of trusting a stranger. "The baby," she whispered finally. "I can't feel the baby moving." That decided it. Tom gathered her meager belongings into her backpack while Emily struggled to stand. She swayed dangerously, and he steadied her with a firm but gentle grip on her elbow. "Can you walk?" She nodded, but after 3 steps her knees buckled. Without asking permission, Tom lifted her into his arms, alarmed at how little she weighed despite her pregnancy. The journey back to his cabin took twice as long as usual, each step careful on the snow-covered trail. Emily remained conscious but disoriented, murmuring occasionally about needing to hide. Once inside, Tom positioned her near the wood stove and added logs to build up the heat. Professional efficiency guided his actions. Shock treatment first. Questions later. "I need to check you for hypothermia," he explained, keeping his distance until she nodded consent. His combat medic training took over as he assessed her condition. Core temperature dangerously low, extremities showing early signs of frostbite. dehydration evident in her cracked lips and sunken eyes. The pregnancy complicated everything. Emily watched him warily as he prepared a warm, not hot, electrolyte solution. "Are you going to report me?" Tom measured his response carefully. "A missing persons bulletin has your photo all over the county. Boyfriend says you're unstable, off your medication." Fear flashed across her face. "He found me?" "Not yet." Tom handed her the drink. "But it's a matter of time." She accepted the cup with trembling hands. "I can't go back. He'll kill me." Tom had heard similar claims before, sometimes true, sometimes paranoid delusions. But the terror in her eyes seemed genuine, and the protective way she curled around her belly spoke volumes. "Drink that. All of it." He moved to the small kitchen area, giving her space while remaining in sight. "We'll figure out the rest after you're stabilized." "I shouldn't have come with you," Emily whispered, but she drank the solution. "Would you rather be dead?" Tom asked bluntly. "Because that was the alternative." The wood stove crackled, gradually filling the cabin with blessed warmth. Tom watched as color slowly returned to Emily's cheeks. Her eyelids grew heavy as exhaustion and relative safety overcame her fear. "Why are you helping me?" she asked, fighting to stay awake. Tom turned away, busying himself with preparing a simple broth. "Get some rest. We'll talk when you're stronger." The real answer was more complicated than he cared to admit, even to himself. Dawn broke with painful brightness against the snow-covered landscape outside Tom's cabin. Inside, Tom explained about the reward posters, Derek's presence in town. "He won't stop," Emily whispered. "Not until he finds me." "Then we need to be ready when he does," Tom answered, his expression hardening with quiet resolve. "Because I'm not sending you back to him." The declaration surprised them both. The wood-burning stove crackled as Emily ran her fingers along the yellowed pages of Tom's field medical manual. Margin notes in faded ink documented lessons learned in combat zones, modifications to standard procedures, improvised solutions, warnings highlighted in red. "You delivered babies?" she asked, studying a diagram of proper birthing positions. Tom glanced up from the hunting knife he was sharpening. "2, both in Afghanistan. Village was cut off by insurgents, no way to evacuate the mothers." His voice remained matter-of-fact, as if discussing routine patrol reports. "Were they okay?" "The mothers and babies." A pause. "One of each survived." Emily closed the manual gently. A week had passed since Tom found her in the woods. Her strength was returning, though the baby remained less active than she'd like. "I was studying to be a full nurse," she offered. "Before..." Her hand moved instinctively to her belly. "Before the baby's father died." Emily nodded. "Michael was a paramedic. We met during my clinical rotations. He was..." Her voice caught. "He taught me a lot about emergency medicine." Tom set down his knife, giving her his full attention. These moments of openness had become more frequent, fragments of trust built through shared meals and quiet coexistence. "What happened?" he asked. "Multi-car pileup on the highway." "Michael was first responder." Emily's eyes grew distant. "They said he saved 3 people before the second collision." "Tanker truck couldn't stop in time." Tom nodded, understanding both the heroism and its cost. "And Derek?" "An old boyfriend. When I found out I was pregnant after Michael died, Derek offered to help." Her laugh was hollow. "Said he'd always cared about me, would be there for me and the baby. I was alone grieving. I believed him, until he showed his true nature," Tom concluded. "It started small, controlling behaviors, checking my phone, telling me who I could see, then criticizing, constant put-downs." She traced the outline of her swollen belly. "Once the pregnancy began showing more, he became different, possessive, violent." Tom's jaw tightened almost imperceptibly. "Why claim the baby as his? Insurance money from Michael's death? A trust for the baby." Emily's voice hardened. "Derek wanted control of it. Kept saying since we were together, the baby was practically his anyway." The radio on Tom's belt crackled, interrupting their conversation. "All Rangers report in for evening check. Over." Tom lifted it. "Hale here." "Sector clear. Over." "Roger that," Martinez's voice replied. "Be advised, weekend forecast showing heavy snow. Potential whiteout conditions." All non-essential personnel remain at stations. Copy. Hale out. He replaced the radio, then moved to the window, assessing the darkening sky. Storms coming earlier than predicted. Emily watched him, noting how the cabin had begun to reflect her presence. A second mug by the sink, her prenatal vitamins on the counter, a makeshift bed Tom had constructed on the couch. "I can't stay here forever," she said quietly. "You have alternatives?" Tom's tone wasn't unkind, merely practical. "I'm putting you at risk. Your job, your freedom," she gestured toward the radio. "Every time you lie about me, you're compromising everything you've built here." Tom returned to his chair, picking up the medical manual. "I've spent 7 years in this forest, Emily. Know what I've learned?" He didn't wait for her response. "That sometimes rules and protocols don't account for the realities on the ground. Is that what I am? A reality on the ground?" The ghost of a smile touched his lips. "You're a person who needed help. I was in a position to provide it." He opened the manual to a section on monitoring fetal heart rates. Simple as that. But they both knew it wasn't simple at all. "Deputy Martinez radioed while you were asleep yesterday," Tom said after a moment. "Search has been scaled back due to weather, but Derek's still in town. Rented a cabin at the Pine Creek Lodge." Emily's face paled. "He's waiting me out." "Smart strategy," Tom acknowledged. "He knows you're in these woods somewhere. Figures the cold will eventually force you to civilization. He doesn't know I found shelter." "No, but he knows someone might have helped you." Tom closed the manual. "We need a better plan than just hiding. Eventually someone will make the connection." "What kind of plan?" Tom considered his words carefully. "Documentation, evidence of abuse, medical records of your injuries, witness statements if possible. Enough to ensure that when you're found, and eventually you will be, Derek can't simply take you back." "That would mean going public," Emily whispered. "Facing him." "Eventually, yes." Tom's eyes held steady on hers. "But not alone." Outside, the wind picked up, driving snow against the cabin windows. The approaching storm would buy them time, keeping searchers indoors, roads impassable. But like all storms, it would eventually pass. Emily placed her hand on the medical manual. "Show me what I need to know, just in case." Tom nodded, understanding her meaning. The baby would come, ready or not, and they needed to prepare for every possibility. They bent their heads over the pages, two people united by circumstance, studying as the storm enveloped the forest in white silence. The blizzard had raged for 3 days, transforming the forest into an impassable white fortress. Inside the cabin, Emily watched as Tom's knife shaved delicate curls from a block of pine, gradually revealing the form of a small duck. "My father carved waterfowl," he explained without looking up, sensing her observation. "Said a man should create something with his hands that wasn't meant to destroy." Emily shifted on the couch, adjusting a cushion behind her aching back. "Was he in the military too?" 3 tours in Vietnam. Came back different." Tom blew wood shavings from the duck's emerging wing, took up carving to steady his hands. 2 weeks had passed since Tom found Emily in the woods. The forced confinement of the snowstorm had accelerated their cautious dance toward trust. Practical necessity, sharing meals, space, and daily routines, had gradually transformed into something more comfortable. Did it help? The carving. Tom considered the question. Some days, never completely. Emily nodded, understanding. She'd seen similar coping mechanisms during her hospital work, veterans finding focus in repetitive tasks, their minds seeking refuge from memories. "The baby's been more active today," she offered, changing the subject. "Kicking like crazy since this morning." Tom set down his carving. "That's good. Consistent movement is important at this stage. She's going to be a soccer player." Emily smiled, then winced as a particularly strong kick caught her ribs. "Or a combat medic," Tom suggested, the barest hint of humor softening his eyes. The radio interrupted their conversation, crackling to life with Deputy Martinez's voice. "Hale, you copy?" "Over," Tom moved to answer. "Copy, Martinez. Roads are finally clearing. Sheriff's called emergency meeting at headquarters tomorrow, 0900. All rangers required to attend." What's the situation? Missing person case escalation. State police getting involved? A pause. Boyfriend's pretty connected, apparently. Pulled some strings. Tom's expression remained neutral, but his knuckles whitened around the radio. Copy that. I'll be there. Need a ride in? Your truck gonna make it through those drifts? I'll manage, Tom replied. Hale out. He set the radio down and returned to his chair, picking up the half-carved duck. Emily watched him work in silence, his strokes more forceful than before. You'll need to go, she finally said. Yes. What will you tell them? Tom continued carving, focused on a difficult detail around the duck's eye. Nothing they don't already know. Will they search cabins? Eventually. But not tomorrow. His knife paused. Meetings about coordination jurisdiction. State police involvement changes the dynamics. Emily's hand moved protectively to her belly. Derek has friends in law enforcement. I told you! You did. Tom set down his knife and duck, moving to the window. Beyond the glass, moonlight reflected brilliantly off fresh snow. Which is why we need to accelerate our timeline. What does that mean? Tom turned to face her. It means I make a call tonight. Dr. Collins, the physician I mentioned. She can document your condition, your previous injuries, create a medical record that can't be easily dismissed. Emily shook her head. That's too risky. If Derek finds out, if Derek gets state police involved, our options narrow quickly. Tom's voice remained calm, but carried undeniable urgency. Right now we control when and how you're found. Once they start systematic searches, that advantage disappears. The reality of her situation hit Emily anew. The cabin wasn't a permanent solution, merely a temporary shelter from the storm, both literal and figurative. I'm afraid, she admitted. That's rational, Tom replied. Fear keeps us alert. He retrieved the duck, turning it in his hands. But it can't be our only advisor. Emily studied him, this solitary man who'd risked everything to help a stranger. In their 2 weeks together, she'd gleaned fragments of his story. The wife and daughter lost in an accident, the military career ended by grief, the self-imposed exile in these remote woods. A man acquainted with loss, who chose isolation as protection against further pain. Yet here he was, carving a toy for her unborn child. Okay, she decided. Call Dr. Collins, Tom nodded, returning to his carving. I'll use the satellite phone from the ranger station tomorrow after the meeting. Less traceable than my cell. What do you need me to do? Rest, stay hidden. His knife moved with deliberate precision along the duck's bill. And prepare your story, everything that happened with Derek, documented in your own words. Dates, witnesses, hospital visits. And then? Tom looked up, meeting her eyes directly. Then we start building you a way out. Outside, the wind shifted, no longer howling but whispering through the pines. The storm had passed, but they both knew darker clouds were gathering on the horizon. The ranger station conference room buzzed with tension as Sheriff Wilson concluded the briefing. Tom sat near the back, expression neutral despite the knot tightening in his stomach. State police arrive tomorrow, Wilson announced, scanning the assembled rangers. They'll coordinate with our deputies on a sector-by-sector search of the entire county forest. That includes ranger cabins and outposts. Deputy Martinez glanced at Tom, then back to the sheriff. Sir, that's over 200 square miles. What's driving this level of response for a missing person? Politics, Wilson replied bluntly. Mr. Mercer apparently has connections in the state capital. And he hesitated. There's new information regarding the missing woman's mental state. Medical records suggesting paranoid delusions, history of erratic behavior. Tom kept his face carefully blank, though his jaw tightened imperceptibly. Ranger Hale. Wilson turned toward him. You patrol the most remote sector. Seen anything unusual recently? Nothing to report, sir, Tom answered evenly. The sheriff studied him for a moment. Your sector will be searched last due to the terrain. Probably 3 days from now. Make sure your cabin's accessible. Yes, sir. As the meeting dispersed, Martinez intercepted Tom in the hallway. Everything okay, Hale? You seem tense. Fine, Tom replied. Just don't like the idea of strangers tramping through my sector. Martinez nodded sympathetically. I get it, but this woman, if she's really been out there all this time in her condition, doesn't look good? No, Tom agreed. It doesn't. You heading back now? After I make a stop. Tom gestured vaguely toward town. Supplies? Martinez seemed about to say something else, then appeared to think better of it. Radio, when you're back at the cabin. Weather service is predicting more snow tonight. Tom nodded and headed for his truck, mind already mapping out his next moves. Call Dr. Collins. Stock additional supplies. Prepare Emily for the possibility of discovery. The drive to the clinic took 15 minutes. Dr. Collins was examining a patient, but her receptionist recognized Tom immediately. Ranger Hale. Doc said you might stop by. She left something for you. She handed him a paper bag, similar to the one he'd received before, but heavier. Inside his truck, Tom examined the contents, more prenatal vitamins, an emergency birthing kit, and a note with a phone number. Call anytime. House visits still available. His next stop was the general store for additional supplies, enough food to last another week without raising suspicion. As he loaded his purchases, Tom noticed a black SUV with out-of-state plates parked across the street. A man stood beside it, showing something on his phone to a local shopkeeper. Even from a distance, Tom recognized Derek Mercer from the missing person flyer. Dark hair, athletic build, expensive winter jacket. The man's demeanor exuded confidence and charm as he spoke animatedly to the shopkeeper. Tom ducked into his truck and pulled his cap lower, starting the engine quickly. In his rearview mirror, he saw Derek glance toward the sound before returning to his conversation. The road back to the cabin stretched before him, winding through increasingly dense forest. Tom's mind raced through contingencies, calculating risks and time frames. 3 days until the search reached his sector. Maybe less, if Derek somehow pointed them in that direction. At the cabin, he found Emily sitting at the small table, a silver picture frame in her hands. She looked up guiltily as he entered. I was dusting, she explained. It fell from behind your bookshelf. Tom set down his supplies, recognizing the photograph she held. Himself in uniform, standing beside a smiling blonde woman and a young girl with her front teeth missing. Sarah and Emma, he said simply. Emily placed the frame gently on the table. Your family? Tom nodded, unpacking the groceries methodically. Sarah was a teacher. Emma was 7. What happened? Emily asked softly. Tom paused, hands stilling on a can of soup. He'd never spoken of it aloud in this cabin, had barely acknowledged it to the military therapists. Plane crash, he finally said. 8 years ago. They were flying to visit Sarah's parents after her cancer went into remission. Weather report was clear. Mechanical failure over the Atlantic. Emily said nothing, letting the weight of his words settle. Search and rescue operation lasted 2 weeks, Tom continued, resuming his unpacking. No survivors. No bodies recovered. I'm sorry, Emily whispered. Tom placed the silver frame face down on a shelf. Meeting went as expected. State police arrive tomorrow. Cabin searches begin in 3 days. Emily absorbed this information, her hand moving instinctively to protect her belly. What do we do? Dr. Collins left supplies and her personal number. She'll come here tonight after her last patient. You trust her. I trust her medical ethics, Tom replied. And her dislike of bureaucratic overreach, Emily nodded, processing. And Derek? He's in town. Showing your photo, talking to locals. Tom met her eyes directly. He's convinced someone's helping you. Just doesn't know who yet. The gravity of their situation hung between them. Emily glanced at the overturned photograph. You've already lost everything once, she said quietly. I can't ask you to risk what you've rebuilt here. Tom's expression softened almost imperceptibly. You didn't ask. He gestured toward the medical supplies. We should prepare for Dr. Collins. She'll need to document everything. The pregnancy, any old injuries, your complete medical history. As they worked to ready the cabin, the silver frame remained face down, its contents hidden, but its presence undeniable, much like the growing connection between a solitary ranger and the woman he'd risked everything to protect, Dr. Sarah. Collins packed her medical bag with practiced efficiency. Her grey hair gathered in a practical bun that emphasized her no-nonsense demeanor. The cabin's main room had been transformed into a makeshift examination area, with Emily seated nervously on a kitchen chair, Tom standing by the window as lookout. "Blood pressure's still higher than I'd like," Dr. Collins announced, making notes in a leather-bound medical journal. "Baby's heartbeat is strong, though. Position seems good for 33 weeks. Emily exhaled in relief. "She's been moving a lot." Good sign. The doctor produced a small digital camera. "Now I need to document those previous injuries you mentioned. The partially healed ribs, wrist fracture site, bruising patterns." Emily glanced at Tom, who nodded reassuringly before turning his attention back to the window. With shaking hands, she lifted her borrowed shirt to reveal a torso marked with yellowing bruises in various stages of healing. Dr. Collins photographed each area clinically, her expression remaining professional, despite the anger flashing in her eyes. "These bruises on your back, they form a distinctive pattern." "Belt," Emily whispered. "The night before I left," the doctor nodded, continuing to document. "And the circular marks on your upper arms." "Cigarettes." "When I tried to call my friend for help." Tom's shoulders tensed visibly, but he remained silent, watching the forest beyond the cabin. "Emily," Dr. Collins said gently, setting down her camera. "I've been practicing medicine in this county for 40 years. Seen plenty of accidents, falls, mishaps." She met the young woman's eyes directly. "These aren't random injuries. This is a deliberate pattern of abuse." Emily nodded, unable to speak. "I'm creating an official medical record," the doctor continued, organizing her notes and photographs into a manila folder. "Time-stamped, signed, with copies secured in multiple locations. If anyone questions your story, this evidence can't be easily dismissed, even if Derek has friends in the police," Emily asked. "Especially then." Dr. Collins handed the file to Tom, who placed it carefully in a waterproof container. Medical documentation carries significant weight, particularly with prenatal abuse cases. The doctor began packing her equipment. "The baby looks healthy despite everything, but you're approaching a critical period. Any stress, physical trauma, or poor conditions could trigger early labor." Tom rejoined the conversation. "What's our timeline?" "Ideally, a proper hospital within 2 weeks." Dr. Collins closed her bag with a decisive snap. "Realistically, you need to be prepared for delivery anywhere, anytime. The emergency kit I left has the essentials." Emily's face paled. "Here, in the cabin, if necessary." The doctor patted her hand. "Women have been giving birth in far worse conditions for centuries, and Tom's field medical training is an asset." Tom's expression remained stoic, but his eyes betrayed concern. "State police begin searching cabins in 3 days. Ours is last on the list, but that only gives us maybe 72 hours. Dr. Collins nodded thoughtfully. "Not ideal timing." She removed a business card from her pocket and wrote something on the back. "My sister runs a women's shelter in Oak Ridge County. It's about 90 miles east, well outside Derek's search area. They have medical facilities and legal advocates." Emily accepted the card, hope flickering across her face. "The challenge," the doctor continued, "is getting there safely. Main roads will be monitored once state police arrive." Tom moved to a map of the forest pinned to the wall. "There's a service road here," he indicated a faint line. "Rarely used in winter. Go next to County Route 16, which leads east. Weather forecast." Dr. Collins asked. "More snow tomorrow. Clearing the day after." Tom traced potential routes with his finger. "If we leave during the snowfall, our tracks will be covered." Emily placed a protective hand over her belly. "Is it safe to travel? For the baby?" Dr. Collins considered this. "Safer than staying where Derek might find you." She turned to Tom. "You understand what you're risking?" "I do," he replied simply. The doctor studied him, noting the subtle shift in his demeanor over the past months, the gradual return of purpose to a man who'd lost everything. "You're a good man, Tom Hale, always were. Just doing what's necessary." Dr. Collins smiled knowingly. "That's what your father used to say, too. Stubborn sense of right and wrong. Genetic in you, Hales." As the doctor prepared to leave, she paused at the door. "I'll need 24 hours to arrange things with my sister. When you're ready, call my personal line." Emily reached for the doctor's hand. Thank you for believing me, child. In my profession, evidence speaks louder than words. She patted Emily's shoulder. And your body tells a story that can't be ignored. After the doctor departed, silence filled the cabin. Tom studied the medical file, his jaw tight with restrained anger at the documented evidence of Emily's abuse. She's right, Emily finally said. We need to leave. Tom nodded, already mentally cataloguing what they would need for the journey. I'll start preparations tomorrow. Outside, snow began falling again, each flake another minute on their rapidly dwindling clock. This route follows Blackwater Ridge, Tom explained, tracing a faded line on the map spread across the kitchen table. It's a longer journey, but avoids the main roads where checkpoints might be established. Emily studied the marked path, anxiety evident in her tight expression. Outside, snow fell steadily, coating the forest in another layer of white. How long would it take? 6 hours in good conditions. In this weather, Tom frowned, calculating. Maybe 10. We'd need to make stops for you to rest. The radio on Tom's belt crackled suddenly. All rangers check in. State Police advance team has arrived. Repeat, State Police have arrived early. Meeting at headquarters in 1 hour. Tom and Emily exchanged alarmed glances as he grabbed the radio. Hale here. Copy that. Over. Hale, this is Martinez. They're changing the search protocol, starting with remote cabins first. Can you make the meeting? Tom's expression hardened. Roads are bad in my sector. Might not be possible. They're asking specifically about your area. Someone reported possible smoke sightings near your cabin last week. Emily's hand flew to her mouth, stifling a gasp. Copy that, Tom replied evenly. I'll try. Hale out. He set down the radio, mind racing. They're starting here. Today, possibly. Someone saw the chimney smoke? Emily's voice trembled. Possibly. Or Derek's getting desperate, making accusations. Tom moved quickly, gathering essentials. We need to move now. No time for the original plan. Emily struggled to her feet, one hand supporting her lower back. At nearly 8 months pregnant, rapid movement had become difficult. Where will we go? Tom pulled out a different section of the map, indicating a small structure. Old Fire Watchtower, 3 miles northeast. Officially decommissioned years ago, but I've maintained it as an emergency shelter. He began packing a go bag with practiced efficiency. It's not on current Forest Service maps. We can hide there until I figure out transportation to Oak Ridge County, 3 miles in this snow. Emily glanced anxiously at her swollen belly. No choice. If State Police search here and find evidence you've been staying... Tom didn't finish the sentence. They both understood the implications. Within 20 minutes, they had packed only what was essential: food, medical supplies, extra clothing, the medical documentation, and Tom's satellite phone. Emily dressed in layers of Tom's clothing, topped with his spare ranger coat. Too large, but necessary for the journey ahead. Take these. Tom handed her a pair of ski poles. They'll help with balance. We need to move as quickly as possible. As Emily adjusted the poles, Tom's radio crackled again. Hale, you copy. Advance team is heading to your sector first. ETA approximately 2 hours. Do you copy? Tom met Emily's frightened gaze before responding. Copy that. I'm on patrol. We'll return to cabin to meet them. Hale out. He switched off the radio and removed the batteries. Let's go. Outside, the snowfall had intensified, visibility reduced to mere yards. Tom led the way, breaking trail through knee-deep snow, regularly checking back to ensure Emily was managing. She moved slowly but determinedly, face set with concentration. After 30 minutes, Emily needed to rest. Tom helped her sit on a fallen log, scanning their surroundings with practiced vigilance. We've covered maybe half a mile, he said quietly. Still have time, but we need to keep moving soon. Emily nodded, breathing heavily. I'm okay. Just needed a minute. Tom checked his compass, then consulted the map again. There's an alternative route. Slightly longer, but less elevation change. He indicated a different path. Easier on you, but more time exposed, Emily noted. Understanding the trade-off, a distant mechanical sound drifted through the forest. Engines, still far off but approaching. Snowmobiles, Tom confirmed, his expression grim. They're moving faster than expected. Emily struggled to her feet, determination overcoming fatigue. Let's go. They pressed on, the sound of engines growing occasionally louder, then fading as the search party moved in different directions. Tom maintained a steady pace, constantly adjusting their route to utilize natural coverage and avoid open areas where they might be spotted. After another mile, Emily's strength began to wane noticeably. Her steps faltered, her breathing increasingly labored. "I need to—" she began, then gasped, doubling over. Tom was at her side instantly. "What's wrong?" "Just a cramp," Emily insisted, but her face betrayed more intense pain. "Braxton Hicks contractions. Dr. Collins mentioned them." Tom looked unconvinced. "How long have you been having them?" "On and off since this morning. It's normal at this stage." Emily straightened with effort. "I can keep going." Tom's experienced eyes assessed her condition, the pallor beneath her flushed cheeks, the slight tremor in her hands, the way she cradled her belly protectively. "1 mile to go," he encouraged, adjusting their packs to take more weight from her shoulders. "The tower has a stove, basic supplies. You can rest properly there." They continued forward as the day's light began to fade. The snowmobile sounds had disappeared, but both knew the search wouldn't end with nightfall. State police would have thermal imaging, proper winter equipment, and Derek's desperate determination driving them forward. As darkness settled over the forest, Tom spotted the silhouette of the fire tower through the trees, a skeletal structure rising above the pines, their destination and temporary sanctuary. Emily's face reflected momentary relief, quickly replaced by another grimace of pain. "We made it," Tom said, supporting her weight as they approached the tower's stairs. Just a little further, the topographical map, folded in Tom's pocket, had guided them to safety, for now. But both knew their journey was far from over. The fire tower's interior was spare but functional, a single room with basic amenities preserved by Tom's occasional maintenance visits. A small wood stove occupied one corner, its warmth gradually dispelling the damp chill as night descended. Emily sat wrapped in blankets on a narrow cot, her face tight with discomfort as another contraction passed. "They're getting closer together." Tom checked his watch, concern evident in his measured movements. 10 minutes apart now. "How's the pain?" "Manageable." She attempted a smile that didn't reach her eyes. Still could be false labor. They both knew it likely wasn't. The 3-mile trek through deep snow had taxed Emily's already vulnerable condition. Tom had been monitoring her closely since they'd reached the tower 2 hours earlier, his military medical training focusing on the immediate threat, potential premature labor. "Let me check your backpack for the prenatal vitamins," Tom said. Reaching for her small bag, Emily nodded, another contraction beginning to build. "Front pocket." As Tom searched, his fingers encountered a folded document. He withdrew it along with the vitamins, recognizing the official letterhead of an insurance company. Emily's eyes widened. "I forgot that was in there." Tom handed her the vitamins and a water bottle. "Michael's insurance policy." "Yes." She swallowed the pill, then hesitated. "It's why Derek wouldn't let me go, why he became so controlling." Tom unfolded the crumpled document, scanning its contents. The policy was substantial, a $500,000 death benefit, with additional provisions for a trust fund if Michael's partner was pregnant at the time of his death. "He named you as beneficiary," Tom observed, "and explicitly mentioned any future children." Emily nodded, wincing as another contraction peaked. "Michael was careful about these things. He saw too many families left with nothing after unexpected deaths." Her breath slowly released as the pain subsided. "The money goes into a trust for the baby. I'm only the custodian until she turns 18, and Derek wanted control of it," Tom concluded, the final pieces clicking into place. "He found the policy while going through my things. Convinced himself he deserved it since he was taking care of me now." Emily's laugh was bitter. "When I refused to add him as a co-custodian, that's when the abuse escalated." Tom folded the document carefully. "You need to keep this safe. It's evidence of motive." Emily's reply was cut short by the distant sound of engines, snowmobiles. Approaching from multiple directions, Tom moved quickly to extinguish their lantern, plunging the tower into darkness except for the wood stove's orange glow. Through the windows, headlights swept across the forest below. "They found our tracks," Tom stated, voice calm despite the gravity of their situation. The snow stopped too soon. Emily struggled to sit upright, panic evident in her eyes. "What do we do?" Before Tom could answer, his satellite phone vibrated. Martinez's name appeared on the screen. "It's the deputy," he said, showing Emily. "I have to answer or it looks suspicious." She nodded, fear mingling with another wave of pain. "Hale," Tom answered, keeping his voice steady. "Where the hell are you?" Martinez demanded, concern rather than anger in her tone. "State police searched your cabin. Found evidence someone's been staying there." "I'm on patrol," Tom replied. "Got caught in the storm?" "Taking shelter at the old fire tower." A pause. "The decommissioned one? That's not even on current maps. It's where I store emergency supplies." "Not entirely a lie. Well, you've got bigger problems than the weather. There's a guy with the state police, the missing woman's boyfriend. He's making accusations, Tom. Says you might be harboring her." Tom's expression remained neutral, despite the escalating danger. "Based on what?" "Someone at the general store recognized you buying prenatal vitamins. And Dr. Collins isn't answering questions about why she gave you medical supplies." Martinez lowered her voice. "Tom, they're treating this as a potential kidnapping now. They're heading to the tower." Tom met Emily's frightened gaze. "How long?" 20 minutes, maybe less. Tom. Martinez hesitated. "Is she there with you?" The moment of truth had arrived sooner than expected. Tom weighed his options in a split-second assessment. "Yes," he admitted. "She's in labor, Martinez. And her boyfriend is the reason she's running. I've got medical documentation of extensive abuse." Silence stretched across the connection. Finally, Martinez spoke, her voice different, official, measured. "I need to report this, Tom. I know. But before you do—" A sudden cry from Emily interrupted him as she doubled over in pain, this contraction clearly more intense than previous ones. "Was that her?" Martinez asked. "She needs help," Tom stated simply. "Real medical help, not handcuffs." Another silence then. "The old logging road on the north side. It's not being monitored. I can be there in 15 minutes with my truck." Tom blinked in surprise. "You'd risk your job?" "I'm not letting a woman give birth in a freezing tower while running from an abuser." Martinez's tone brooked no argument. "Be ready to move." And Tom, this conversation never happened. The line went dead as Emily gasped, clutching her belly. "My water just broke." Tom pocketed the phone, the insurance document, and moved quickly to her side. "Change of plans. We're getting you to a hospital." Outside, the snowmobile engines grew louder, searchlights sweeping through the trees. The race against time had just become far more complicated, and the stakes infinitely higher. "Breathe through it," Tom instructed, supporting Emily as another contraction seized her. Slow and steady, the fire tower creaked in the winter wind as Emily gripped Tom's hand, her face contorted with pain. Outside, searchlights swept methodically through the forest, closing in on their location. "They're getting closer," she gasped as the contraction eased. Tom checked his watch. Martinez should be at the north logging road by now. He gathered their essential supplies, moving with controlled urgency. "We need to move during the next gap in contractions." "I don't know if I can walk," Emily admitted, fear edging her voice. "I'll carry you down the stairs. After that, we take it slow." Tom's tone left no room for doubt. "One step at a time," Emily nodded, gathering her determination. When the next contraction passed, Tom helped her to her feet and into her coat. He extinguished the wood stove, then lifted her in his arms, her weight seeming even lighter than before. The tower stairs were treacherous, narrow, icy, and exposed to the biting wind. Tom descended with careful precision, hyper-aware of Emily's vulnerable state and the searchlights periodically illuminating sections of the forest below. At the base of the tower, he set her down gently against the structure's foundation. "Rest a moment. I need to scout our path." Tom moved silently into the tree line, his decades of military and ranger training evident in how he navigated the darkness. The snowmobile's engines rumbled from multiple directions, but a narrow corridor to the north remained unpatrolled. When he returned to Emily, she was breathing through another contraction, her eyes clenched shut with effort. 6 minutes apart now, Tom noted, concern deepening the lines around his eyes. "Can you walk?" "I have to," she replied, accepting his supporting arm. No choice. They moved slowly into the forest, Tom selecting their route to maximize cover while minimizing obstacles for Emily. Each step was a careful negotiation between speed and safety, with pauses whenever a contraction demanded Emily's complete focus. The north logging road appeared after 20 agonizing minutes. A narrow, unmaintained path barely distinguishable beneath the snow. No vehicle was visible. "She's not here," Emily whispered, despair threatening to overwhelm her. "We wait," Tom replied, helping her to a sheltered position beneath a cluster of pines. 5 minutes, no more. Those 5 minutes stretched eternally, punctuated by Emily's increasingly frequent contractions and the distant but persistent sounds of the search party. Tom remained outwardly calm, but his mind calculated diminishing options with each passing moment. Just as he prepared to formulate an alternative plan, headlights appeared at the far end of the logging road, approaching slowly without a searchlight, a deliberate signal of friendly intent. Martinez's truck rolled to a stop, engine still running. The deputy emerged, surveying their surroundings with professional vigilance before approaching their position. "You look terrible." "Hale," she greeted him, then turned to Emily. "Ma'am, I'm Deputy Sophia Martinez. Let's get you somewhere safe." Tom helped Emily toward the truck while Martinez kept watch. "Hospital in Pine Creek?" he asked. Martinez shook her head. "Derek has people there. We're heading to County General in Oak Ridge. It's farther but safer." As they reached the truck, Martinez hesitated, then unpinned her badge from her uniform. She pressed it into Tom's palm. "Take this. If you're stopped, it might buy you critical minutes. I'll claim it was stolen earlier today." Tom stared at the badge, understanding the magnitude of her risk. "Sophia, don't!" She cut him off. "Just get her to safety. I'll create a diversion, lead the search in the wrong direction." A sudden flare of pain caused Emily to cry out, drawing their attention. "She needs to lie down," Tom said, opening the truck's rear door, where Martinez had already prepared a makeshift bed. Once Emily was settled, Martinez pulled Tom aside. "State police know she's with you now. They found Dr. Collins' medical records at your cabin, Derek. Pushing for your immediate arrest. Kidnapping charges." Martinez's expression hardened. "I bought you maybe 2 hours by misreporting your location. After that, we'll be across county lines," Tom finished. Martinez nodded. "I left my personal cell phone in the glove compartment, untraceable. Call Dr. Collins when you're close to Oak Ridge. She contacted her sister at the women's shelter." "They're expecting you." A shout from the distant search party caught their attention. Martinez squared her shoulders. "Go, now!" As Tom climbed into the driver's seat, Martinez leaned in the window. "Why did you do it, Tom? Risk everything for a stranger?" Tom glanced back at Emily, then met Martinez's gaze. "Because sometimes protocols don't account for the realities on the ground." A ghost of a smile touched Martinez's lips. "The county's going to miss its most stubborn ranger." She stepped back, drawing her service weapon. "I'm going to fire 3 shots. Spotted a deer. That should draw their attention away from this area." Tom nodded gratefully, putting the truck in gear. "Be careful, deputy." Former deputy, probably. Martinez's smile turned wry. "Now go, before I remember I'm supposed to be upholding the law." The truck pulled away, headlights off, navigating the treacherous logging road by moonlight. In the rearview mirror, Tom saw Martinez's silhouette raise her weapon toward the sky. The 3 shots echoed through the forest as they disappeared into the darkness. Her badge a weight of responsibility in Tom's pocket. The truck lurched over another pothole, jostling Emily in the back seat. Her cry of pain mingled with the static-filled voices emanating from the police scanner mounted under the dashboard. "All units be advised," a formal voice announced. Suspect Thomas Hale is believed to be traveling with Emily Warren in a Forest Service vehicle. Consider suspect armed and dangerous. Warren is in late-term pregnancy, possibly in distress. Tom adjusted the scanner's volume, his expression grim. They'd been on the road for nearly 40 minutes, navigating back routes toward Oak Ridge County. Every transmission revealed the search expanding, roadblocks being established, their options narrowing. 3 minutes, Emily managed between labored breaths. Contractions. 3 minutes apart now. Tom checked the rearview mirror. Empty road behind them, but the night offered limited visibility. We're making good time. 30 miles to the county line. The scanner crackled again. Attention all units. Possible sighting of suspect vehicle on Route 16, establishing checkpoint at Jensen's Bridge. Tom's knuckles whitened on the steering wheel. Jensen's Bridge was directly on their planned route, the fastest way across the river separating the counties. Need to find another crossing, he muttered, mentally recalibrating. The only alternative was Weldon's Ferry, 15 miles north, a significant detour that would cost precious time. Emily gasped as another contraction seized her. This one lasted longer, her face contorting with the intensity. Tom! I don't think we have much time. He glanced back, noting her position, the sweat beading on her forehead despite the cold. His combat medic training assessed the situation clinically. Advanced active labor, potentially transitioning to the final stage. Hold on, he encouraged, accelerating slightly. We'll get you there. The scanner erupted again, this time with a voice Tom recognized, Sheriff Wilson. All units be advised. Deputy Martinez reports suspect may be heading for Weldon's Ferry. Redirect northern units to establish blockade. Tom allowed himself a brief smile. Martinez was still running interference, deliberately misdirecting the search. But that option wouldn't last much longer. Change of plans, he announced, turning the truck onto a narrow side road that barely qualified as more than a forest trail. We're taking Coleman's Pass. Emily struggled to focus through her pain. What's that? Old mining road. Hasn't been maintained for years, barely on maps anymore. Tom navigated the increasingly rough terrain with practiced skill. Used to patrol it when I first started with the Forest Service. Crosses the river upstream from Jensen's Bridge. Is it safe? Emily managed, bracing herself against the door as the truck bounced over the uneven surface, safer than a police. Roadblock? Tom didn't add his concerns. About the road's condition after years of neglect and winter weather. The scanner continued providing updates. Roadblocks established. Search patterns coordinated. Descriptions of Tom and Emily broadcast to all units. Most concerning was the latest development. Be advised, civilian Derek Mercer has joined search efforts in his personal vehicle. Black SUV, license plate Sierra Romeo 642. Mercer is familiar with Warren and may attempt to approach if located. Emily's breath hitched. He's out there, looking for us. He won't find us, Tom assured her, though uncertainty gnawed at him. Derek's determination complicated an already precarious situation. The truck headlights illuminated a rusted sign, partially obscured by vegetation. Coleman's Pass, no winter maintenance. Beyond it, the road narrowed further, descending into a steep ravine where the river cut through the landscape. Tom slowed their pace, acutely aware of the precipitous drop mere feet from their right wheels. The truck's tires struggled for purchase on the ice-slicked surface. Almost to the bridge, he said, more to himself than Emily. The scanner burst to life once more. All units, new information. Suspect reported to have medical training. Sources indicate Warren may be in active labor. Approach with extreme caution. Tom switched off the scanner, the constant updates more distraction than help now. They needed to focus on the immediate challenge, the decrepit wooden bridge spanning the churning river below. In the truck's headlights, Coleman's Bridge appeared like a skeletal remnant from another era. Wooden planks, many visibly rotted, stretched across a 30-foot gap above the ice-choked water. We can't cross that, Emily whispered, fear momentarily overriding her labor pains. Tom stopped the truck. evaluating their options with the methodical assessment that had kept him alive through 3 combat tours. The bridge would likely support Emily's weight alone, but the truck was another matter. Yet turning back guaranteed confrontation with either law enforcement or Derek. I need to test it first, he decided, putting the truck in park. Stay here. As he reached for the door handle, Emily cried out, a different sound from her previous contractions, more primal and urgent. What's wrong? Tom turned back, alarmed. The baby, Emily gasped, her face pale with a combination of pain and terror. She's coming now. I can feel her. I need to push. The dash clock read 11:42 p.m. They were still 20 miles from the hospital, stranded at a decrepit bridge, with a manhunt closing in from all directions. Hold on, Tom instructed, reaching for the medical kit. Don't push yet. The scanner had fallen silent, but its presence loomed as a reminder of the closing net around them, and of the critical minutes ticking away as new life prepared to enter the world in the most precarious of circumstances. Breathe with me, Tom instructed, his voice steady despite the urgency of their situation. In through your nose, out through your mouth. The truck's interior had been transformed into a makeshift delivery room. Tom had reclined the back seat as far as possible, positioning Emily with her back supported and knees bent. The emergency birth kit Dr. Collins had provided lay open beside them, its contents arranged methodically: sterile gloves, absorbent pads, umbilical clamps, scissors, bulb syringe. Outside, snow had begun falling again, coating the truck's windows with a layer of white that offered some concealment, but further complicated their already dire circumstances. Emily gripped the door handle as another contraction peaked. I need to push, she gasped. I can't stop it. Tom checked her position, his combat medic training overriding any discomfort or uncertainty. You're fully dilated. Next contraction, push with it. The dashboard clock read 11:58 p.m., less than 20 minutes since they'd stopped at the bridge. Labor had progressed with unexpected speed, eliminating any possibility of reaching the hospital. I'm scared, Emily admitted in the brief reprieve between contractions. You're doing everything right, Tom assured her, adjusting the battery-powered lantern to improve visibility. Your body knows what to do. I'm just here to assist. The police scanner remained silent. Tom had switched it off to focus entirely on the birth, but they both knew the search was tightening around them. Each minute they remained stationary increased the risk of discovery. Another contraction built, stronger than before. Emily bore down, her face contorting with the effort. I can see the head, Tom announced, his voice betraying a hint of wonder beneath its professional calm. Dark hair. Keep going, Emily pushed again, a primal sound escaping her throat. Outside, the wind howled across Coleman's Pass, nature's accompaniment to the ancient drama unfolding within the truck's confined space. One more push, Tom encouraged. Shoulders are next, then it gets easier. Emily summoned her remaining strength, bearing down with determination born from months of adversity and survival. Her effort was rewarded with a sudden release of pressure and a tiny, indignant cry. It's a girl, Tom confirmed, his hands steady as he supported the newborn's slippery form. Just as you said, he worked efficiently, clearing the baby's airways, clamping and cutting the umbilical cord, wrapping the tiny form in the sterile thermal blanket from the kit. The infant's cries grew stronger, her tiny fists waving in protest at her abrupt entry into the cold world. Is she okay? Emily asked, tears streaming down her face. She's perfect, Tom answered, his voice thick with emotion as he placed the swaddled newborn on Emily's chest. Small but strong. Good color, good lungs. Emily cradled her daughter with trembling hands, wonder temporarily overriding exhaustion and fear. Hello, little one, she whispered. We've been waiting for you. Tom continued monitoring Emily's condition, completing the necessary post-birth procedures with the limited resources available. Outside, the snow fell more heavily, accumulating on the windshield and obscuring their view of the bridge and road beyond. What now? Emily asked, her moment of joy giving way to renewed awareness of their precarious situation. Before Tom could answer, distant headlights cut through the snowfall, approaching from the direction they had come. The vehicle moved slowly, deliberately, not the pattern of a patrol car, but someone searching. "Police?" Emily whispered, instinctively drawing her newborn closer. Tom peered through the snow-streaked window, his expression hardening as the vehicle's outline became clearer. "Black SUV, civilian, Derek." Emily's voice trembled. "How did he find us?" "The old mining road isn't on current maps, but someone who knew to look—" Tom didn't finish the thought. "He must have been monitoring the police channels. Heard the updates about your labor." The SUV continued its approach, now less than a quarter-mile away, its high beams sweeping across the landscape. Tom quickly assessed their options, none of them good. The truck was visible from the road. Attempting to drive across the questionable bridge risked a catastrophic fall. Reversing would lead directly toward Derek, and abandoning the vehicle to flee on foot with him, newborn and postpartum mother, was practically impossible. In the snow and freezing temperatures, I need to confront him, Tom decided, reaching under the seat for the emergency flare gun, not a weapon, but perhaps a deterrent. "Keep the doors locked. If anything happens, use Martinez's phone to call for help." "Don't," Emily pleaded, clutching her daughter. "He's dangerous, Tom. You don't know what he's capable of. I've handled worse." Tom checked the flare gun, then retrieved Martinez's badge from his pocket. "Keep the baby quiet if you can." "I'll try to redirect him." Emily's eyes filled with tears. "We came so far, and we're not giving up now." Tom's gaze softened as it fell on the newborn. "What's her name?" Emily looked down at her daughter, tiny features still scrunched from the journey into the world. "Hope," she decided. "Her name is Hope," Tom nodded, the simple name carrying the weight of everything they'd fought for. "Stay down, stay quiet. I'll handle this." He stepped out into the swirling snow, closing the truck door firmly behind him. The SUV's headlights drew closer, illuminating the falling snowflakes like cascading stars against the night sky. Behind him, safely cradled in her mother's arms, baby Hope let out another cry. New life, announcing itself in defiance of the danger approaching through the darkness. Snow crunched beneath Tom's boots as he positioned himself between the truck and the approaching SUV. The flare gun felt inadequate in his hand, but it was their only option. He breathed deeply, centering himself as he'd done countless times before combat operations. Derek's vehicle stopped 30 yards away, headlights illuminating Tom in harsh relief against the snow-covered landscape. For a moment, nothing moved except the falling snow, silent and indifferent to the confrontation below. The SUV's door opened. Derek Mercer stepped out, his expensive winter coat and confident posture at odds with the desolate surroundings. Younger than Tom expected, athletic build, handsome features currently hardened with determination. "Ranger Hale," Derek called, his voice carrying easily in the still night air. "I think you have something that belongs to me." Tom remained silent, evaluating his opponent with the practiced eye of a veteran. No visible weapon, but Derek's right hand remained in his coat pocket, the stance of someone prepared for conflict. "I know Emily's in there," Derek continued, taking a step forward. "And I know she's had the baby. My baby." "Not your baby," Tom replied evenly. "And not your call anymore." Derek's smile didn't reach his eyes. "Let me explain something, Ranger. I've got half the state looking for you. Kidnapping charges, interfering with a police investigation, harboring a mentally unstable woman." He gestured toward the truck. "That doesn't end well for you. Medical documentation says otherwise." Tom's voice remained calm, despite the adrenaline coursing through him. "Dr. Collins has a complete record of Emily's injuries." "Your injuries." A flicker of uncertainty crossed Derek's face, quickly replaced by calculated charm. "Look, I get it. Emily spun you a story. She's good at that, part of her condition. The delusions seem real to her." He took another step forward. "But I'm here now. I can take over. You go your way, I go mine. No charges filed. From the truck came a sound that rendered all negotiations moot. The newborn's cry, thin but determined, carrying through the night. Derek's expression changed, something possessive and cold entering his eyes. "That's my ticket," he murmured, too quietly for Tom to hear. "She's not going with you," Tom stated firmly. "That's not your decision." Derek's hand emerged from his pocket, holding a small revolver. I tried to be reasonable. Tom raised the flare gun instinctively, though they both knew it was an uneven match. "A flare gun," Derek laughed. "Seriously?" "Martinez knows where we are," Tom bluffed. "State police are on their way. Martinez is currently explaining to her superiors why she misdirected search efforts." Derek's confidence suggested insider knowledge. "No one's coming to help you, Ranger." Inside the truck, Emily watched the confrontation through snow-streaked windows, clutching hope to her chest. The newborn's cries subsided, as if sensing the need for quiet. With trembling hands, Emily reached for Martinez's phone and dialed the emergency number Dr. Collins had provided. Outside, Derek continued advancing, gun trained on Tom. "I've got a simple solution here. Emily and the baby come with me. The trust fund gets managed properly. You disappear back into the woods. Everyone wins, except Emily," Tom responded. "And the baby. They're my family," Derek snarled, his charm evaporating. "That money belongs to us. I've earned it after putting up with her crazy behavior for months." The revelation hung in the frigid air, Derek's true motivation laid bare. Not concerned for Emily or the child, but the insurance trust fund meant to secure the baby's future. "You're not getting anywhere near them," Tom said, his voice dropping to the quiet tone that those who had served with him would have recognized as most dangerous. Derek raised his weapon higher. "I'm not asking permission." Inside the truck, Emily whispered desperately into the phone. "Coleman's Pass Bridge. Please hurry. He has a gun." Tom calculated odds and options with combat-honed precision. The flare gun would provide one shot, a distraction at best. The bridge behind them remained a questionable escape route. Derek's position between them and the road back eliminated that option. "Last chance, Ranger," Derek warned, closing to within 15 feet. "Move aside." Tom's finger tensed on the flare gun's trigger, knowing the moment of decision had arrived. He'd survived war zones and personal tragedy, rebuilt a life in solitude, only to find himself making a final stand on a snowy bridge for a woman and child he'd known mere weeks. Yet in those weeks, something fundamental had shifted, purpose returning to a life that had been merely existing. Tom thought of Emily's courage, baby Hope's first cry, and found his resolve solidifying into certainty. "You want them?" Tom challenged quietly. "You come through me," Derek's face twisted with rage. "Gladly." The standoff teetered on the edge of violence when a new sound cut through the night. Sirens in the distance, growing closer. Derek's head snapped toward the sound, momentary confusion breaking his focus. "That's not possible." "No one knows." Tom seized the distraction, firing the flare gun directly at Derek's feet. The magnesium flare erupted in blinding, sizzling light against the snow, forcing Derek backward with a startled cry. In the chaotic illumination of the flare, a police helicopter appeared above the tree line, its spotlight sweeping the scene as if summoned by the flare itself. "Drop your weapon," boomed an amplified voice from above. "This is the state police. Drop your weapon now." Derek hesitated, calculation and panic warring in his expression as he realized his narrative was collapsing. The helicopter spotlight fixed on him, highlighting the gun in his hand for all to witness. Below the bridge, police cruisers appeared on the access road, sirens wailing as they converged on Coleman's Pass. Tom remained steady, positioned between the threat and the truck containing Emily and newborn Hope. Behind him, the first chapter of their unusual story was ending, and an uncertain new one beginning in the harsh glare of emergency lights. 6 months had transformed the forest from winter's harsh grasp to summer's gentle embrace. Sunlight filtered through the pines surrounding Tom's cabin, no longer a solitary refuge, but a home expanded with a small nursery addition. Its windows open to the afternoon breeze. Emily sat on the front porch steps, watching as Tom put the finishing touches on a small wooden rocking chair. His skilled hands sanded the edges with meticulous care, the same attention to detail he'd once applied to military field medicine, now directed toward creating something beautiful and lasting. "It's perfect," she said as he held it up for inspection. "She'll love it. She's 6 months old," Tom reminded her with the hint of a smile that had become more frequent these days. "She tries to eat her own feet. Still," Emily insisted, "she'll know it was made with love." Inside the cabin, Hope babbled happily in her crib, the baby monitor on the porch railing faithfully transmitting each contented sound. Her arrival had changed everything, not just for her mother, but for the solitary ranger who'd found unexpected purpose in protecting them both. The aftermath of that night at Coleman's Pass had unfolded with surprising swiftness. Derek's arrest for attempted assault with a deadly weapon had been just the beginning. The evidence Dr. Collins had documented, combined with Derek's own incriminating statements about the insurance money, had resulted in multiple charges. Martinez had faced disciplinary action for her role in helping Emily and Tom, but public sentiment had shifted dramatically once the full story emerged. A 2-week suspension had been her only official punishment, though her promotion to detective had been quietly accelerated afterward. "Mail's here," Emily announced, spotting the Forest Service jeep approaching along the access road. She waved as Jesse, the young ranger, pulled up to the cabin. "Afternoon, folks," Jesse called cheerfully, emerging with a bundle of envelopes and a small package. "Special delivery today." Tom set aside the rocking chair and accepted the mail with a nod of thanks. Among the usual correspondence was an official-looking envelope bearing the county court seal. He handed it to Emily, who opened it with nervous fingers. Her eyes scanned the document, widening with each line. "It's done," she whispered. "Restraining order made permanent. Full custody granted." She looked up, tears glistening. Derek's visitation petition was denied. Tom squeezed her shoulder gently, a small gesture that conveyed volumes between them. The legal battles had been exhausting, but necessary to secure Hope's future and Emily's freedom. "And," Jesse added, "I heard from Martinez this morning. Derek's plea deal went through. He'll serve at least 3 years for the financial fraud charges alone." "Good," Tom said simply, the single word carrying the weight of justice finally served. After Jesse departed, Emily returned to the paperwork. Reading the judge's final statement aloud, "The court finds the plaintiff, Emily Warren, has established a safe and nurturing environment for the minor child with the support of her co-guardian, Thomas Hale. The trust established by Michael Reed for his daughter's benefit will remain under their joint administration." She set down the document, her expression thoughtful. "Co-guardian. It's official now," Tom nodded, resuming his work on the rocking chair. They had discussed this arrangement extensively, not romantic partners, but something equally meaningful. Co-parents bonded by circumstance and choice rather than biology. The baby monitor crackled as Hope awoke from her nap, her demands clear, despite her limited vocabulary. Emily rose to tend to her, pausing briefly at Tom's side. "I never thanked you properly," she said quietly. "For everything." Tom looked up. The afternoon sun highlighting the silver in his hair and the creases around his eyes, lines that now included smile marks alongside those carved by grief. "No need," he replied. "Having you both here," he gestured toward the cabin, the forest, the life they'd built together. "It's enough." Emily smiled and went inside, returning moments later with Hope balanced on her hip. The baby had her mother's eyes and her biological father's dark hair, but her determined expression seemed uniquely her own, a survivor from her first breath. Tom set aside his tools and held out his hands. Hope reached for him immediately, a toothless grin lighting her face as she recognized her co-guardian, protector, and unexpected father figure. "There's my brave girl," he murmured, as she settled comfortably in his arms. "Want to see what I made you for your half-birthday?" Emily watched them together, the former solitary ranger and the infant who had helped heal his wounded heart. Neither was what the other had expected to find in the wilderness that winter night. Yet their connection seemed as natural and necessary as the forest surrounding them. From deep in the pines came the sound of a woodpecker, its rhythmic tapping a counterpoint to Hope's delighted babbling as Tom showed her the rocking chair. Life continuing, evolving, finding new paths forward. The wooden rocker, like the family it was crafted for, wasn't built from a traditional blueprint. Yet its carefully joined pieces created something stronger and more beautiful than its individual parts, handcrafted with patience, reinforced through adversity, and designed to endure, just like them.